What's up, parish orphans and retrogrades? Thank you for being with me here today. Timothy Gordon on Rules for Retrogrades. I bring to you a very special show today, kind of one of a kind. You know, ever since a couple falls ago, folks ask me, you folks, you good parish orphans and retrogrades out there, have been flooding my inbox, direct messages, text messages, some of you that know me. What happened to TNT? What happened? What broke it up? And I've declined to comment in almost every instance. Recently, now I think all of you know what I'm referring to here, Taylor Marshall issued a statement on FSSP and the Institute of Christ the King, and it was a very critical statement. This provides the answer that you've long sought. And I want to tell you that it's a meaningful answer to your question, and it's going to substantiate a few things for you. Now, here's the story really quickly without getting into details of TNT. Taylor Marshall and I teamed up to popularize the Latin Mass, the TLM, because both of us sincerely, as sons of the church, love the Latin Mass. And that was a force for the good. It was an exciting time, right? Taylor's channel's subscribers tripled or quadrupled in the short amount of time, a little over a year, that I made shows with him. It was an exciting time, and it was good because a lot of people came to the faith and came to the TLM through the two of us. All good. Throughout the time, as happens, we were disagreeing more and more on things like the topic of Taylor's video, whether or not FSSP caved in. And of course, this is only a recent response that FSSP and ICK have issued in their recent communique to the July 16th motu proprio of Pope Francis. We're going to talk lots about. So it was a good time. A little over a year, 15 months or so. Taylor's channel exploded through the popularity of TNT. The popularity of TLM was served all the better by the people that were excited by what we were doing, which was really about what was happening at the Tridentine Latin Mass. It was all good. Let me tell you something else, though. The answer to the question, when people ask, why did I leave, is simple. I believe fundamentally, at the core of my being, that with leadership, whatever kind of leadership this is on technology, social media, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, it's a kind of leadership. And I believe that it shouldn't be done by polling, by sticking your foot into the water, better said, your toe. Polling, will this be popular first? Will this play with this audience? Should I throw some chum in the water, some bloody meat? Will this be popular with people that are relying on us for both information and commentary? And throughout, particularly the latter half of TNT, issues were arising between Taylor and me. We're former partners, right? We both thrived greatly on his channel under what was happening, the explosion of popularity, repopularity of the TLM. And we were butting heads over whether or not popularity should play a role in this sort of leadership, whatever you deign it, whatever you call it. Personally, I'm being real honest now. I don't care. I couldn't care less. It's nice to have more people watching your channel rather than less, but you don't ever trade in the truth for it. And this was an issue on which Taylor and I butted heads again and again and again, till eventually I said, you know what? Even as this show, TNT, Taylor and Tim, is at its peak of popularity, I'm out. Because I don't, hang popularity. I couldn't give a damn less. I really couldn't. And of course, I don't have to prove this to anybody because my inbox substantiates the claim. People are like, why would you ever leave something so popular at its peak of popularity? Because I couldn't give a damn. What matters is the truth. And the first half of TNT, we were popularizing FSSP. We were popularizing ICKSP. We were popularizing it, not through our work, through the Holy Spirit's work, because we were speaking the truth. Even the diocesan Tridentine Latin Mass, because both of us, like I said before, love it. Taylor does, I do. That part's sincere. But there's this other underling, ugly form of subterranean traditionalism, you call it rad trad if you want, that was growing like a canker dividing Taylor and me. The kind of ugly canker that impels Taylor to make a video like he made yesterday, attacking the ICKSP and FSSP as, get this, those who caved in to the Pope. The term was caved in. This is so absurd and so un-Catholic. Coming from me, consider the source, a person that's been in print attacking Pope Francis since 2014. I think that's 4 years before Taylor turned over that leaf. 4 years. So this, I'm comfortable saying as a layman, FSSP, ICK priests can't say this. This is, I'm confident as a teacher of church history on timothyjgordon.com. You can take my class, Church History. It just began. I'm confident saying this is the worst pope, the most evil prelate we've ever had out of 266 popes. This crop of bishops is the weak and perhaps the most evil we've ever had. So there's no disagreement between us there. I led the charge on that. I've been publishing in Crisis Magazine since 2014 on that score. When Taylor was still defending the Pope, that's not the issue. But if trad means rad trad, then as the great Dr. Dre said, scratch trad, you can have it back. I don't want it. If it means leaving the church, if it means casting aside holy obedience to the good confreres of FSSP and ICKSP, then you have jumped the shark. And you're missing the forest for the trees, Taylor. And I'm admonishing you in a fraternal way, not that you'd ever come on my show or debate me brotherly or just have a beer in fraternal good humor, because that's what I want. You wouldn't do it. You know what happens when I debate. But the point is, I'm inviting you, take back what you said about FSSP and ICK. The idea that they, Roman Catholic priests, caved in to the pontiff is an utterly un-Catholic notion. I don't think I'm being rudimentary when I say this sounds Lutheran. This sounds Protestant. Furthermore, I don't think I'm being reductionistic when I say this is Lutheran, this is Protestant. He's the worst pope we've ever had. Obedience to something called, and forgive me for being so remedial, the universal jurisdiction of the pontiff on discipline matters, doctrine, dogma, ecclesiology, the org chart of the church, means that one who obeys the Pope is obeying Christ. It's not complicated. That means that really, to somebody that's already fastened their heart to Christ and to the sacraments, has already done so to ecclesiology as well. This is not a decision somebody actively makes. You understand? I don't think you do. And I know that you probably don't, because this was dividing us more and more as we continued to make shows. So I'm out. You can have it back. And if this is trad, if all the people that attend FSSP and ICK and diocesan TLMs, as long as they continue to exist, are cool with this kind of slander, basically like a Protestant calling FSSP papists, which we all are, even to bad popes like this one, then I'm out, man. You can have it back. So there's no choice to cave in. This is just utterly un-Catholic language. I've talked before about the great strengths, the virtues of Protestant converts to Catholicism. There are many, right? Knowledge of the Bible, a lot of times even knowledge of ecclesiology, ironically, they know better. Knowledge of authority, an intimate knowledge of the way that scripture and authority cross-fertilize one another, ironically, often goes to the side of the converts rather than faithful cradle Catholics who are pretty much all reverts. No one's in our day raised a faithful Catholic. Converts versus reverts, many strengths that Taylor brings to the table, which is why his channel's large. Right? Got kicked off with TNT after a decade or so of relative obscurity, but it stayed large because there are all these genuine virtues of Taylor Marshall, of his channel. But for the last year and a half, I'd say the shark has been jumped. And his response to the so-called cave-in of these papists, Roman Catholic priests, who all, unlike you and me, laymen, friends, parish orphans, retrogrades, they take a vow of obedience. The different orders take different vows. Some of them take vows of poverty. Some even take vows of silence. But all of them take a vow of obedience to the bishop ordinary. That's how the org chart of Roman Catholic ecclesiology works. And as someone that's published far more articles than Taylor Marshall against this pontificate, I do so as a layman. Catholic 101. I can say as a revert, with all the virtues that I bring to the table, why I guess people liked TNT, a convert and a revert. One cannot disobey or disregard the rules at all times and all ways, particularly if one's a priest, right? Layman, we can run outside of the bounds a little bit. And actually, all of my many friends in the fraternity, they all say this to me. They're like, Tim, you can say that. My Norbertine priest friends say this to me too. You could say that. You keep saying that about Pope Francis. We can't, right? We follow the rules. You're following the rules. You just have a wider girth. You have wider latitude to say what you say. So when we run this all back and we funnel it through what's happened since July 16th, the motu proprio Traditionis Custodes, which, yes, that's a poke in the eye by Pope Francis. He's saying he's the guardian of tradition. Not too many people caught that. In the wake of all this, the sound and the fury of a mixture of legit traditionalist and rad trad backlash, it's been a din. It's been sound and fury, a lot of noise. And I've given some shows. I brought on some SSPX chapel attending friends of mine. I brought on Michael Lofton. I brought on some people in between. But today, I'll say with Taylor Marshall's critique of FSSP and ICK, people have got to draw a line. You, the parish orphans and retrogrades, you have to draw a line. This show is not about beating up the SSPX, which in Taylor's video yesterday, he showered with encomia of flattery, the SSPX, as he's been wont to do over the last year and a half, and saying the FSSP should be more like them. Well, this brings me to my second point. People are going to have to decide, does he get to have his cake and eat it too? Should people that attend FSSP and ICK, should they continue to listen to Taylor Marshall after he's essentially now signaled really clearly that he's on board with all the online rad trads who say that FSSP is bootlickers and that they cave into the Pope? They're like a bunch of papists. They have to follow universal jurisdiction. Well, that's one of the precepts of the church. I mean, what? It doesn't get much stranger than this. Clown World 2021, and it doesn't get much stranger than this, that you get Catholics calling other Catholics who clearly don't like the Pope. I'm going to go through the nature of FSSP and ICK's communique, probably even read it because we need all the details. But to call them bootlickers when they're clearly signaling in that letter tons of not so subtle, I guess, subtleties that people like the likes of Taylor Marshall missed, to say that they love the Pope, no, they're just playing the game. They're playing the game within the rules. We'll talk about that in a second. But one really dishonest moment in Taylor's video yesterday, and there were several. Trust me, I'm his ex-partner. I know the inside workings. I know the outside workings. I know how the game is played. I don't play it. That's why I quit at the peak of popularity. But let me say this, to pretend now that the cave-in, that the bootlickingness ostensibly of FSSP, I'm just going to say FSSP because I'm sick of saying and ICKSP. The institutions from Ecclesia Day, 1988, right? The bootlicking from Society of St. Pius X perspective has been entire. It's been total since 1988, right? When I went on Matt Fradd's show around the new year, I addressed with Matt a dishonesty that Taylor had been purveying for about a year before then, that SSPX and FSSP are somehow friends. Guys, FSSP broke off of SSPX in 1988 because if you listen to SSPX, They caved. FSSP caved. They're bootlickers. They caved in 1988. This is the tired old story. Okay. And now everyone says unite the clans and all that nonsense. Don't unite the clans. Unite where there's real unity. There's no unity around Vatican I, around Vatican II, around the troubling, awful pontificate of Francis. Those three are real dividing lines between FSSP and SSPX. So don't unite the clans. Scratch that. So there's no new novel approach that FSSP has chosen as of their communique a few days ago. There's none whatsoever. This is utterly consistent with who they are as an institution. Okay, I'm gonna play a minute and a half of Taylor's video yesterday, and you could see how I think you could see pretty much from the outset how dishonest the approach is. There's even a little gaslighting about, hey, don't hate on FSSP. That's straight up gaslighting. That's what the whole video is. And of course, it's done in a genteel way. This is how the game is played. But I'd say it's a little bit gross to watch because it's so dishonest. Now, what non-rad trads, what traditionalists who love the old liturgy, the old Latin Rite liturgy say, that I think is fair, is that if we look at discipline, which can change in the church, it's changed a million times. Just ask the Eastern Orthodox, right? They're more trad than the trads. The Eastern Orthodox freaked out, came up with a whole new faith because we went from leavened bread to unleavened bread. A lot of people freaked out when medieval popes took away the chalice. These are ancient liturgical practices that go back to Christ himself. Leavened bread, the chalice, certain words, they've been changed around lots. And more trad than the Catholic traditionalists, or even the Catholic rad trads, are the Eastern Orthodox. They raise a lot of the same points. They're just more consistent. But so the trads, the rad trads, everyone kind of says together, and I'm inclined to agree that disciplinarily, when we look at liturgy, pre and post conciliar disciplinary liturgy, the whole kit and caboodle, yeah, Novus Ordo looks like a new faith. I'll give you that. It's not. Now, rad trads will say it is a whole new faith, a whole new religion. It's not. But yes, it looks like it. I'll give you that. But here's the funny part, my friends. Doctrinally, ecclesiologically, to go around calling or insinuating that FSSP caved into the Pope, that's a term that doesn't even exist in the Catholic lexicon. Caved in, you just have to if you're a Catholic priest. It's not a choice. Universal jurisdiction of the pontiff in discipline, in doctrine. I mean, now doctrine can't change. So this doesn't mean any pope can say that there are four persons in the Trinity. But in Vatican II type teachings where it's gray, you know, religious liberty, all that, discipline, doctrine, things above that, the Pope has universal jurisdiction. Look, man, if the Pope says tomorrow all priests wear their hair in the tonsure, you don't get to say, I don't know if I'm going to cave in on that. This is very specific. Council of Trent teaches it very specifically. Vatican I teaches it very specifically. Lumen Gentium even addresses this from Vatican II very specifically. So here's the thing. Disciplinarily, yeah, pre and post conciliar Catholicism look like different faiths, but aren't. But doctrinally, ecclesiologically, when you hear the rad trads, and I guess Taylor Marshall and that whole cottage industry of hangers on Taylor Marshall's coattails, talk about papist this and you know, cave in that of FSSP, well, that sounds like and is like a different faith. That's not Roman Catholicism, my friends. Parish orphans and retrograde. That ain't Roman Catholicism. The Protestants call us papists. You and I, assuming that you're a layman, we can say more. We can publish more. We can write more. I can do videos like this saying Francis is the worst pope ever, but he still enjoys the office. There's the man. I think this is a wicked prelate, a bad man. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess I'll be punished if I'm wrong. I'm quite certain, though. But the office we still have to respect. What does universal jurisdiction, the Pope's power to make an unfair, bitter July 16th motu proprio that might eventually take away the Latin Mass. Where does it reside? Does it reside in the man, Francis, or in the office? I'll let you, I mean, I'm having to teach stuff that I teach my third graders, evidently. It's in the office, not the man. When he stops holding the office, he won't be able to do this anymore. Universal jurisdiction, Catholic 101, converts, get with the program. Every single ecumenical council that ever anathematized a group of schismatics or heretics or whatever, they always dealt with a group of folks that thought that what they were doing was based and red-pilled, bro. They always thought that what they were doing was cool. Sometimes it was left-leaning, but a lot of times it was right-leaning, like Donatism or Jansenism. Think about it. It's really clear. I'm telling people, I'm expressing to you people my vision of whatever kind of leadership this is, here with a camera and a computer screen and a few notes here, but mainly just me riffing the way I've been doing for the last 3 years. My vision of leadership is, I don't care if I lose every damn last follower. I don't like this Pope. I think he's a wicked Pope, as I tell Michael Lofton on that side. I don't think we have to go to Ultramontanism. This Pope does a lot of his wickedness unofficially. Unofficial interviews with Eugenio Scalfari of La Repubblica, disfame. And on plain presses, we don't have to listen to that, and we can mock it, particularly us laity. But on the other side, the vision that everyone cheers when I debate Trent Horn. I'm like, Pope Francis can't do what he did to Catholic teaching on the death penalty. Everyone's cheering for me. That's at the very beginning of Rules for Retrogrades. And then the very next step, you turn around and you're like, okay, but trads, more like rad trads, I have something for you too. I asked you guys all out there, every single one of you, look, show me a royal flush, because taxonomy matters, a royal flush that beats Vatican I. Particularly paragraphs 2, 8, and 9 of mediator, I forget what document it is in Vatican I. Would you look up that document in Vatican I, please? Look, paragraphs 2, 8, and 9 in the main document in Vatican I makes it really clear. Popes can do a lot. It's a plenary power. Very close to an absolute power. Ask Webster's dictionary. And so it's unpopular to say, look, really wicked popes evidently can do really wicked things, particularly with discipline. Show me a full or something that beats this document. An ecumenical council's document, this is like a straight flush. Show me the royal flush that beats it magisterially, and I'll be happy. I'll rejoice with you, because I don't want Pope Francis to be able to do away with the Latin Mass. I don't want Pope Francis to be able to do away with the Latin Mass. Let me say it again. I don't want wicked Pope Francis to be able to do away with the Latin Mass. Let me say it one more time. No, I'm not going to do that. You got it straight. Show me the document. I'm casting to, whatever it is, hundreds of thousands of people a month. And in 5 different shows in a row after the motu proprio was released on July the 16th, I said, show me the royal flush that beats the straight flush. People keep going, oh, papal bull from Pius V. Quo primum. That's a pair, man. That's 2 pair. That doesn't beat an ecumenical council. Show me an ecumenical council or the royal flush that would definitely beat it. An ex cathedra papal statement that says, no, here's some gloss on Vatican I. No one's done it. Okay, so I hope to be wrong. I submit to you in a spirit of honesty and what I take to be leading from the front. Look, show me, because I'm a Catholic philosopher. I'm not a theologian. I teach church history, and I'm pretty sure that document ain't out there, and I've looked a little bit, but show me if I'm wrong. I'm not being facetious there. So it's like 2 religions between the trads, rad trads, I should say, and faithful Catholics. When it comes to, do you call other faithful Catholics papist? Or do you call faithful Catholics at all papist? Catholics don't do that. That's Protestant behavior, we say. Rad trads say papist. Doesn't mean you like the Pope. Okay, let's hear It's from the opening salvo of Taylor's video. It'll be a little bit more pointed if I can play a minute and a half here. So let's hear what he has to say, as much as I can take it.
And wondering how these traditional Latin Mass institutes, priestly societies, are going to respond to Pope Francis. What will be their response? They made their response. The superiors of...
Wait, so let me pause there. What will be their response? What do you want them to do? What are you talking about? What, like Martin Luther? Like Calvin? Like Zwingli? Melanchthon? What do you want them to do besides, okay, the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church is a lot like the military. If you're a grunt or a sergeant, a non-commissioned officer, and the 4-star general gives you an order, it's like, oh, everyone's waiting. What's going to be the response? Of a sergeant to a 4-star general? This guy stands in the shoes of Peter. Universal jurisdiction, dig it. What do you mean? So that's disingenuous. No one, least of all me, I wasn't waiting what their response is going to be. Taylor, come debate me, man. We're ex-partners, right? People, TNT, put both of us on the map. Let's have some discussion. Fraternal correction, right? We're both laymen. It's easy to do here. It gets richer, though.
These groups got together and issued a communique. And I'm going to read that communique.
I'm going to read it, too, after
and
this.
I'm also going to admit that the reason that I have taken so many days to do this podcast is because I was so riled up. As I read this, it sounds to me, I'm going to go through 5 options of what this communique could mean and give some very charitable reads of the communique. So I'm not here.
Don't gaslight. Don't gaslight. It's honesty time, okay? Stop gaslighting your listeners, man. Please. I'm going to give charitable response. Watch what he says. 8 seconds later, it's a cave-in. That's calling an entire order or 2 or 3 cowards. And it's calling them cowards on an idiotic, un-Catholic basis. It's basically calling them papists. But listen to what he says. We don't need you to characterize your own words. Look, I'm not characterizing my own words here today. Maybe I think I'm being charitable. And if 99% of people disagree with me, third-party perspective being what it is, then I probably am wrong. I don't know if self-appraisal is a strength here, Taylor. I don't think it is. So you just said you're going to give a charitable response. This ain't charitable to call them cave-in artists.
Just to dog and dunk on the Fraternity of St. Peter and Institute of Christ.
He's saying not to do that.
And you're in the live chat. Don't do that. Take a deep breath. But I am going to say some hard.
Okay, why would you suspect that your audience is going to dunk on FSSP and ICK priests? Well, is it because they regularly in your chat call them bootlickers? Is it because they regularly in your chat say that they caved in 1988 when they split off from SSPX? I think so. I think you know what to expect. And I think there's intended foreseen consequences and there's unintended foreseen consequences. This sounds more like a intended foreseen consequence of your words. You know they're going to start up with that. Don't give me that. Just be honest. Just say what you mean. No one ever accuses me of saying anything other than I mean. This is a recurring criticism of the Taylor Marshall Show. And, this is coming from your ex-partner who you won't talk to, won't call back, won't text back, didn't call me when my daughter was in the hospital having brain surgery, wouldn't call back, caused a big problem between us, blocked me on Twitter the day after my daughter had big brain surgery in the hospital. So sincerity, for all of the strengths I mentioned, sincerity might not be in there, might not be one of them. I would go so far as to say. And if I'm wrong, then that's fine. Then come on and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me what's up. Show me why it's okay to critique an entire order or 2 or 3 who are just following Roman Catholicism ecclesiology, essentially calling them papists, saying they're cave-in artists.
That communicate today. And I'm also going to admit that the reason that I have taken...
Sorry, I got a little behind here. The reason he took so many days.
I was so riled up.
So this is virtue signaling, right? To say that you're riled up. I know I already covered this, but the 5 options were super charitable. He's going to go through these 5. Very charitable reads.
Just to dog and dunk on the fraternity of St. Peter and Institute of Christ the King. And if you're
Which certainly happened in his chat.
Don't do that.
Pretending to condemn it.
But I am going to say
don't do that.
Things. My initial response when I read the communique and I saw that they begged for dialogue 5 times. They quoted
Get this.
They quoted Amoris Laetitia, the most controversial document of Pope.
So he's condemning FSSP for begging for dialogue 5 times, which is exactly what a dubia is. Get that, right? And he doesn't even understand the contradiction between what he's saying. It's philosophically incoherent, right? To condemn them, inferiors asking the superior who stands in the shoes of Peter on earth for dialogue, which is the only thing and the best thing they could do. And I think I'll show you how in the letter after this, by reading the letter, where they did it really masterfully. They did it really expertly. But he's condemning them, and get this, he even condemns them for citing Vatican II. This is 1988 stuff, bro. That's, Vatican II. It's an ecumenical council, one of the 21. Yes, they're going to cite Vatican II. Now, Amoris Laetitia is a little interesting. Their citations of Amoris Laetitia were polite throwbacks into the face, spitbacks into the face of Pope Francis. His double standard for decency, civility, and dialogue. And Taylor evidently just totally missed this.
Francis, which still has 5 unanswered dubia by none other than Cardinal Burke and 3 other cardinals too. May they rest in peace. I thought.
So he cites, the dubia as a good thing. May the 2 deceased cardinals, Cardinal Meisner and Cardinal Cafara, rest in peace. And then we have 2 surviving cardinals, Cardinal Burke and Cardinal Brandmuller, who both condemned the SSPX, which he goes on to praise so much in that video. That's not what this video is about. I'm slightly less categorical in my condemnation on this issue than, say, my brother or Michael Voris. That's not really my big interest. But I will say he got quiet, Taylor did, on Cardinal Burke for about a year because Cardinal Burke has repeated. He did it on Matt Fradd's show time after time. He did it in the spring, his condemnation of SSPX. So now Taylor's back to lauding Cardinal Burke, which I'm a big Cardinal Burke fan. Most of the retrogrades and parish orphans are, dare I say, all of them. But he doesn't seem to understand that the dubia that, yes, need to be answered, should be answered by Pope Francis, though no one can force him. What are they but a filial request for dialogue? He says dialogue 5 times, and he condemns it. He condemns an inferior asking his superior, Pontifex Maximus, standing in the shoes of Peter on earth. He condemns inferiors for acknowledging the org chart of Roman Catholicism, the way ecclesiology works. He just doesn't understand it, folks.
You guys caved in. And maybe it's a moment.
All right. So that's all I can take, man. I don't know. I don't know how you listen to this day in and day out. I don't. But what's really interesting, speaking of caving in, is, like I say, I'm not going into all the details, but leadership by polling. We said this as Republicans in the Clinton presidency. Right? I remember my parents critiquing this. A leadership by polling. Poll first, then talk real tough if the poll recapitulates what you already thought that it would say. Poll first. So he even cites this in the next minute of this opening salvo. He cites that he polled. He's like, I did a poll. This was part of the reason I was waiting. I was waiting because I was so ticked off, or whatever word he used, right? He really was waiting for the results of the poll to come in. And this is how things work. This is the primary methodological difference between Taylor and me. We agree about a lot of stuff. Still do. We disagreed about more and more related to FSSP versus SSPX. You can't really say they're the same. You're siding with SSPX. I'm siding with FSSP. But so that's all substantive stuff. But methodologically, Taylor just wanted to poll first, or maybe not every show, but only do the popular stuff, only throw chum into the water. And I don't give a damn about that. We're charged with truth. I mean, whatever this is, having a mic, having a computer, having something of an audience, whatever it is, forget polling first, right? So you've managed, Taylor, to convince a number of people that universal jurisdiction before the pontiff is not a thing for every Roman Catholic priest, that every Roman Catholic priest in the world doesn't take a vow of obedience to his bishop, who organizationally, pyramidally, is structured taxonomically upward to the Bishop of Rome, who enjoys universal jurisdiction over them all. You've managed to convince, to the tune of what you reported in your show, 75% of your people thought it was a cave-in or something. I forget what the actual verbiage of your poll was. 75%, 25% thought it was faithful obedience. So that means 75% of you who took Taylor Marshall's poll were wrong. FSSP, ICK have no choice in the matter. They are subservient to the Pope. What are they going to do? Go form their own new church? Oh, I guess half of you guys think that's a good idea. So, but here's my question. What if the odds were reversed? This is the question for people that listen to Taylor Marshall and continue to listen to him. If the odds came back 25-75 instead of 75-25, would we ever have seen this show that came out about this time of the day yesterday, condemning FSSP? See, you all have to speculate. But I can tell you, my best guess, it's still an opinion, but I have lots of evidence from behind the scenes. If it was 25-75 instead of 75-25 popular, no way. Okay? I'm telling you, I'm an insider. I'm as insider as it gets. We were partners. It was an exciting time. It was fun. There's lots of positive that came about it, but that positive is being inverted. When we start attacking the holy, bold, obedient, austere confreres, austere in a good way, of the FSSP, when traditionalism demands that, and we start referring to them like they're cave-in artists or bootlickers, all the stuff that he's used to seeing on his live chat, then that positivity has been inverted. The love that Taylor and me and pretty much all of you feel for tradition and the patrimony of the Roman Catholic Church is beautiful. And some of the revilement that we feel for some of the worst aspects of the perversion of Sacrosanctum Concilium, that's fine. But it can go too far. You can jump the shark. And that's what this show was. So I would pitch it to all of you. Look, tell Taylor, you got to apologize to FSSP or I'm going to turn you off. If you go to FSSP, I'm not addressing Society of St. Pius X people. You guys probably love this. I'm not even talking smack on you. It's not really about that. I'm talking about the majority of the people that are listening to him still attend one of these Ecclesia Dei institutions while they still can. I'm willing to wager. And if you go to FSSP or ICK, your allegiance, unless he's misbehaved, which does happen, should be to your priest, not some layman attacking him on these Protestant grounds. I'm serious. I love the Latin Mass. You guys love the Latin Mass. Taylor loves the Latin Mass. A lot's happened over the last 3 years. There's a lot of water under that bridge. Pope Francis has been a major source of division. That's what happens with wicked prelates. And I think he's the most wicked of all the prelates. But it's tough. You can't just do whatever you want. Obedience to the Pope, to universal jurisdiction, is easy under Pius IX, Pius X, Leo XIII. It's harder other times. That's the contingency of being alive in real history. We don't all have the same Pope or the same quality of Pope. It's hardest for us to acknowledge universal jurisdiction as something we really don't want. You take the bad with the good, my friends. You take the bad with the good. We have certain aspects of life that they didn't have in, Pius IX's pontificate. We have penicillin. We get an infection, we don't die. So that's better. But we also take the bad with that good. They had it better because they had better popes in the late 1800s. We have it better because we have penicillin. We don't die from an ear infection or whatever. But the point is, now that we do have a different pope, universal jurisdiction doesn't change, baby. Taylor, look at me. Look at me, homie. It doesn't change. Right? That's the marks of the church. It doesn't change. The indefectibility of Roman Catholicism is bound up with universal jurisdiction, even with this wicked prelate, that it took you till 2018 to call out or something like that, 2017, 2018. But don't poll first. See, I don't care. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys all for being in my audience, even the ones that come on here and call me like a jackaninny or whatever. I don't really care. But I also don't really take it that seriously, so seriously, that it's going to alter what I'm saying. As a Roman Catholic, a faithful son of the church, a reverted faithful son of the church, I know how bad life gets outside of the church, because it was basically my whole life, even though I went to Catholic school, living in the cold, dark exterior to the doors of the church, having no solace. If you have a hypochondriacal moment, right? If you're not Catholic, the one true faith, what solace is there? You just die and you're food for worms? Well, that's what I believe till I was nearly 30, even though I'd been raised in the Roman Catholic Church. And a lot of you guys are the same way, right? I love the church because it's true. I'm willing to take the bad with the good. I've been critiquing Pope Francis since way early. I was critiquing Beer Bug way early. I did a show with Steve Skojec in early 2020, and I'm like, this is a psyop, dude. You know what else is a psyop? Rejections of freaking universal jurisdiction. So this is what I'm saying before I read the letter is, do not unite the clans, right? Unite clans that are arguing over whose favorite color is best, or what vestment is prettiest, or which stained glass window is the most sublime of all the churches in all the world. Don't infight over that. But don't populate, don't waste your time. Don't populate my inbox, my chat, my direct messages with these Susan from the parish council messages about infighting. Don't waste your time. Okay? The clans, not all of them need to be fighting, but FSSP and SSPX, you now know from their communique I'm about to read, they need to be fighting, right? And I'm not attacking SSPX. Go do your thing, man. You think it's fine. Go do it. I'm just saying, for you people that are straddling the fence, stop. It's effete. If you go to an FSSP or ICK parish, then you got to be on board with the cave-in, with universal jurisdiction of the Roman pontiff. And to say so is, that's not infighting. It's not fragging, right? Fragging is useless. It's neat. Fragging means you jump on board when someone on the right says something that's unpopular with the left, right? Do you hear me jumping on board, condemning every last thing that a groiper in my audience, a young groiper, Catholic groiper says? I don't agree with that, but I'm not going to condemn everything, because if I agree with people about the majority of stuff, then some fringy stuff, I'm not going to condemn every last one. That's cucked. This, however, is an issue of essence, an issue at the center of what it means to be Catholic that Taylor misunderstands, that drove TNT apart. It's anything but infighting. So get off of that. And we both thrived very much from TNT. It did great things for Taylor's channel, tripled or quadrupled his subscribers in just a very short amount of time, took it out of relative obscurity, helped me to get some publishing deal. It was very good to both of us, right? And I want to give that back with truthfulness. We're not cowing to the swarming herd, the hoi polloi, man. There's a hoi polloi on both sides, Catholic left, Catholic right. It's cucked to constantly bend the knee to them, to tuck your tie in to these people all the time. Just say the truth. That's what the Lord asks of us. If you don't love the FSSP or ICK, I understand. Leave it. I acknowledge. This is why I have friends that go to SSPX. I've had a few of them on my show. If you don't love it, leave it. I respect that. Okay? I'm just saying this to Taylor. If now you think that they're caved, and what they've done is nothing new, it's very characteristic, everything they've ever done since 1988, then don't go. Then don't go. Yeah, and I know others, that are called, like me, called post-trads, people that like the TLM but don't like the disobedience, like my friends Coffin, Voris, Michael Lofton. They've weighed in on the Taylor Marshall phenomenon, as he's really been jumping the shark over the last year and a half. And in all honesty, in all candor, that's fine. That's good. I mean, I agree with a lot of what they say, but you guys needed to hear from me, okay? Because I'm this is the other half of TNT, and I've stayed as quiet as I can stay until you start attacking the priests, the good confreres of the fraternity. All right, so let's do this. Let me read to you guys, by way of closing up here, with a little bit of commentary, this short communique by these three institutes: FSSP, ICKSP, and more. I think it might only be from them too, but there are other Ecclesia Dei institutes as well. The signatory institutes want, above all, to reiterate their love for the church and their fidelity to the Holy Father. They're just saying we're Catholic. This filial love is tinged with great suffering today. We feel suspected, marginalized, banished. But I mean, that's a lot of honesty right there. This isn't some cucked response to say that we feel all these negative, pejorative modifiers. We feel all these things. I don't get why everyone's jumping on their case. We feel suspected, marginalized, banished. However, we do not recognize ourselves in the description given in the accompanying letter of the motu proprio, Traditionis Custodes, of July 16th, 2021. And then they cite 1 John, if we say we have no sin. What they mean here is very interesting, because although I didn't write this letter, it's what I would have written as well, and what I said in my 5 shows on the motu proprio in the immediate wake of the publication of July 16th motu proprio. They say we do not recognize ourselves in the description given in the accompanying letter of the motu proprio. And I raised this point, citing my friend Boss, as this is the common sense gun regulation of the Catholic Church, Traditionis Custodes. It blames the law-abiding citizens, the ecclesiology-abiding citizens, FSSP, for the ills of the outlaws, or whatever you want to call them, SSPX. Right? That's what common sense, Democrat-inspired gun regulation always does. You punish the law-abiding for the sins of the non-law-abiding. That's all Traditionis Custodes was. It's the best analogy I've heard in a long, long time. Why is Pope Francis hating on the people that reject Vatican II in its documents, reject Vatican II in its initial intent for implementation, Sacrosanctum Concilium, that reject things like religious liberty? This isn't us. We literally broke. We're FSSP. We broke with SSPX in 1988 over all this. We affirmed our loyalty to the church. I'll continue. We do not see ourselves as the true church in any way. They're really insinuating SSPX sees themselves as the true church. On the contrary, we see in the Catholic Church our mother, in whom we find salvation and faith. We are loyally subject to the jurisdiction of the Supreme Pontiff and that of the diocesan bishops, as demonstrated by the good relations in the dioceses and the functions of presbyteral conciliar, archivist, chancellor, or official, which have been entrusted to our members. And the result of canonical or apostolic visits of recent years, we affirm our adherence to the magisterium, including that of Vatican II, and what follows. According to the Catholic decree of the assent due to it, particularly Lumen Gentium, paragraph 25, which I've talked a great deal about on this show, and the Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 891 and 892. They're just saying, look, bro, we're Catholic. That's all they're saying. We follow the rules, and we're being blamed for the people that like the same liturgy as us, the TLM, who don't follow the rules, according to Lumen Gentium 25, Catechism numbers 891 and 892. And this is evidenced by numerous studies and doctoral theses carried out by several of us over the past 33 years, defending the things you have to defend to be a Catholic. I'm adding that in. Have any mistakes been made? We are ready, as every Christian is, to ask forgiveness if some excess of language or mistrust of authority may have crept into any of our members. We are ready to convert if party spirit or pride has polluted our hearts. This is just saying, look, if we've erred, they're not saying they have. They're saying if we've erred, we're legitimately ready to acknowledge it. That's not anything groundbreaking. That's called being Christian. And this is a carefully worded Christian unpology. My brother Dave calls this an unpology, right? Because they're just saying if we gave offense, then sorry. Then they cite the 49th Psalm. fulfill your vows unto the Most High. We beg. Now, I think so that made Taylor mad that they said Vatican II is valid in an ecumenical council and it's citation worthy. I don't know exactly what, but that made him mad. That ticked him off. Now he gets ticked off at and that's a ridiculous thing to be angered by. Needless to say. Then they go on. We beg for a humane, personal, trusting dialogue, far from ideologies or the coldness of administrative decrees. Wow, this is a nice filial critique of the Papa. Let me repeat it. They're given lots of little sort of self-defensive barbs that follow the rules of filial piety here. I'll repeat it. We beg for a humane, personal, trusting dialogue, far from ideologies. Or they're saying that Pope Francis really is giving into ideology, or the coldness of administrative decrees like the motu proprio. Nice. I mean, this is a golf clap, at least here. This is a nicely constructed letter. I don't know what the hell everyone was reading when they said this was like a cucked response. They go on. We would like to be able to meet a person who will be for us the face of motherhood of the church, right? The church is always the bride of Christ, the maternal figure, always female, always the parent between the two parents that's, ready to give the carrot, not the stick. This is why the church is the church. It's supposed to be maternal this way. So they're asking for dialogue, which is all the dubia cardinals were asking for. You please dialogue as an interlocutor, even though you're in charge, with our 5 dubia, our 5 questions. Dialogue is everything, right? They're just asking for maternal kind of dialogue where it's loving. They're saying, look, we're doing our part to show our filial piety. You do your part to show your paternal piety as the Pope, and the church in its representatives, its maternal piety back. We would like to be able to tell him about the suffering, the tragedies, the sadness of so many lay faithful around the world, but also of priests, men and women religious, who gave their lives trusting on the word of Popes John Paul II and Benedict XVI. That is beautiful, my friends. I literally don't know what people are pissing and moaning about, calling this a cucked letter. Do you know what this is accusing Francis of? In very, very pious language, appropriate language. In a genuflection, think of Catherine of Siena's, calling the Pope sweet prince. In a genuflection, they're saying, we don't have any force, we don't have power, we don't have much influence even over you, no power, very little influence, but we do have the impellingness of the truth. And the truth is that men and women religious gave their lives to the fraternity, trusting on the words of Pope JP2 and Benedict XVI. And what they mean was, clearly, please don't do this. Please don't do this. You have the power to do it because universal jurisdiction is plenary, but please don't do it. Your predecessors have, as much as they can on your honor, sul honore, bound you to this. Now, you're not technically bound to it. Remember, when Pope Victor was going to excommunicate all the people that didn't want to follow his abrogation of the Johannine, coming from John the Apostle, liturgical form, just like this. Pope Victor was going crazy. He's like, do my new change. I abrogated this Johannine liturgical function. This is like the 3rd century AD. And he was getting rid of an apostolic tradition that went back directly to John the Beloved. Saint Irenaeus rebuked him, but he was like, look, Pope Victor, you, exactly like FSSP masterfully wove into this epistle, you can do this. You do have this plenary power, but is it prudent to use it against loving, faithful servants of the church, loving, faithful sons of the church? That's beautiful. And by the way, the Pope Victor Redux, as Edward Penton called it at National Catholic Register, is very instructive for our situation today, because that Pope Victor, literally abrogated a liturgical form that went all the way back to John the Baptist. Forget like Pope Pius V, in the 16th century. after there was such a thing as a Protestant Christian, which is way separated from Christ. Pope Victor was literally getting rid of liturgical forms that went back to John the Beloved. And people were like, okay, we don't want to do this. And he was going to excommunicate him. And Irenaeus is like, well, you could excommunicate him because you have that power, but please don't. That's the approach that FSSP is taking here, and it's masterful. From a stylist perspective, from a writerly perspective, from a rhetorical perspective, this is masterful. Saying the men and women religious, I'll repeat it one more time, and priests involved in our institutes have made our vows or made commitments according to this specification. They were promised that all measures would be taken to guarantee the identity of their institutes in the full community of the Catholic Church. Again, they're like, look, here's the contract that was kind of signed with us. Now, we can't really bind you to the law. We can't take you to a court of equity for specific performance on this contract. It's a little weaker than that because of the ecclesiology, the taxonomy, the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church. But we can remind you on your honor, this is what was given to us. The first institutes, they say, accepted with gratitude, the canonical recognition offered by the Holy See in first full attachment to the traditional pedagogies of the faith, particularly in the liturgical field, based on the Memorandum of Understanding of May 5th, 1988, between Cardinal Ratzinger and Archbishop Lefebvre. This solemn commitment was expressed in the motu proprio Ecclesia Day of July the 2nd, 1988. Then in a diversified manner for each institute in their decrees of erection and in their constitutions definitively approved. They repeat this point. The men and women religious and priests involved in our institutes have made vows or made commitments according to this specification. Not cucked at all. They're saying, Pope Francis, don't do this. Don't do away with the TLM or the TLM specific institutes. With the Ecclesia Dei institutes for the Latin Mass, like FSSP, ICKSP. It is in this way that trusting in the word of the Supreme Pontiff, we trusted you, Holy Father, they gave their lives to Christ to serve the church. These priests and men and women religious serve the church with dedication and abnegation, meaning self-denial in this context. Self-denial, like what we're doing right now. We priests of the FSSP, we're saying we deny ourselves. That's why instead of saying, no, we're not going to do it, a la Martin Luther, the response evidently Taylor Marshall wanted them to give, they're saying we're still submitting ourselves with abnegation, with self-denial to say, you could do this, Holy Father. Please don't. Please back away from the precipice, Holy Father. Please dialogue with us. That's good. That's what Cardinal Burke and Cardinal Brandmuller, Cardinal Meisner, Cardinal Caffarra did when they submitted the dubia. Now, what Pope Francis will choose to do, well, that will be world historical, as it was when he chose to ignore the dubia. But that's all they were doing, friends. Cardinal Burke, Cardinal Brandmuller, two of the boldest men in the church, both of whom, say don't go to SSPX. If you like the Latin Mass, go to FSSP. These bold men say that. They both were asking for dialogue, same as the FSSP that Cardinal Burke is so close with. Can we deprive them today of what they're committed to? Can we deprive them of what the church had promised them through the mouths of the popes? Have patience with me, they cite Matthew chapter 18, verse 29. Pope Francis, quote, encourages the church's pastors to listen to them with sensitivity and serenity, with a sincere desire to understand their plight and their point of view, in order to help them live better lives and to recognize their proper place in the church. Now, they're citing Amoris Laetitia. Why? Taylor totally missed this. It's embarrassing. Why are they citing Amoris Laetitia, which is 2016, April, bad document, tough document? Why are they citing it? To show him politely within the rules, in a posture of, filial genuflection, you're being a double standard hypocrite, Pope Francis. I can say that. I can externalize the thought. They just have to say, here's what you said in Amoris Laetitia. How did all of you guys miss this? I do think, I'm not trying to be a jerk, I think classes in reading comprehension need to be given in traditionalist circles, right? You got to look for style, not your style, substance. You have to learn. This is what you get reading a whole variety of documents, magisterial documents, legal documents, jurisprudence, philosophy, history, literature. A lot of you guys don't read literature. You need to look for different tones. That's clearly what they're doing here. No question, 100%. They are saying, hey, look at this line from Amoris Laetitia, paragraph 312. Pope Francis, you're being a hypocrite. I can say it because I'm a layman. They can't because of their vow of obedience. They have to be a little subtle. But Taylor Marshall, they weren't being that subtle, man. They were being a little subtle, and you managed to miss the hook. They continue, we are eager to entrust the tragedies we are living to a father's heart. We need listening and goodwill, not condemnation without prior dialogue. This sentence, this excellently constructed sentence by the fraternity and Christ the King, priest, this pissed off Taylor Marshall to say, we need listening and goodwill, please, Holy Father, not condemnation before prior dialogue. That's excellent. I mean, if I were grading this communique by the TLM Institutes from Ecclesia Dei, I would say this is an A. This is an A paper. It's masterfully done. Not everyone's a stylist, right? Not everyone can write like this. And I guess not everyone can read a good stylist's composition for what it's intended for. The harsh judgment creates a feeling of injustice and produces resentment. It's direct, borderline confrontational, like it, strong. Patience softens hearts. We need time. Great rhetoric. Nothing cucked in this so far. Not one line is bad. Today, we hear of disciplinary apostolic visits to our institutes. They're going to push back on this. We ask for fraternal meetings where we can explain who we are and the reasons for our attachment to certain liturgical forms, the TLM. Above all, we want a truly human and merciful dialogue. Have patience with me, they repeat from Matthew's Gospel. On August the 13th, the Holy Father affirmed that in liturgical matters, unity is not uniformity, but the multifaceted harmony created by the Holy Spirit. This is masterful also. Rhetorically speaking, what they're going to unpack exegetically in this paragraph here is the Holy Father's words, I think again from Amoris Laetitia, and they're throwing them back politely in his face. He said in liturgical matters that we don't need total unity. Unity is not uniformity. Oh, we need unity, but we don't need uniformity. Sorry, my bad. Right? So they're saying, look, if we can have all these Eastern rites in the church, why can't we have our little TLM? Why, you hate us? You think we're rigids? You think we reproduce like rabbits? It just means we follow the church teaching on contraception, which, unlike the right, who's teaching un-Catholic things about this very communique, the left teaches that you can, I guess, contracept. Pope Francis seems to teach that. They're saying, look, you think we're weirdos. We get it. Can you just leave us to our corner of the Latin Mass? And they're throwing his words back at him. How can Taylor Marshall miss this? It's so obvious. This is masterfully composed. They're defending themselves too. They're just not, you can't strike the Pope. Literally or figuratively. Literally, it's an automatic excommunication. Did you know that? To strike the Pope. I don't know what these guys want. I don't know what they want from him. The Declaration of Independence from the Pope? Is that what you wanted, Taylor? And go on. We are eager to make our modest contribution to this harmonious and diverse unity, aware that, as Sacrosanctum Concilium teaches, quote, the liturgy is the summit toward which the activity of the church is directed. At the same time, it is the font from which all her power flows. Again, Sacrosanctum Concilium, based document from Vatican II. We need, as I've told you several times here on Rules for Retrogrades, to petition Pope Francis to give us a mass that looks like Sacrosanctum Concilium, which would just be an organically modified TLM. I've said this several times. With confidence, we turn first to the bishops of France so that a true dialogue be opened and that a mediator be appointed who will be, for us, the human face of this dialogue. We must avoid judgments which do not take into account the complexity of various situations. Masterful. This is Amoris Laetitia. This is so gratifying to read because they're being so polite, but they're pushing back so hard. And as concerns Taylor Marshall, bro, you just missed it. You missed the boat. This is a masterfully composed letter. Let me repeat that. With confidence, we turn first to the bishops of France, so that a true dialogue be opened and that a mediator be appointed, who will be for us the human face of this dialogue. We must, and here's where the Amoris Laetitia throwback into the face of Pope Francis is joined. We must avoid judgments which do not take into account the complexity of various situations, which he says, Pope Francis says, and they don't like, about civilly divorced and remarried folks who want to get communion. They continue with the quote, "It is a matter of reaching out to everyone, Pope Francis," this is your words in Amoris, "of needing to help each person find his or her proper way of participating in the ecclesial community, and thus to experience being touched by an unmerited, unconditional, and gratuitous mercy." Amoris Laetitia, paragraph 296. That is so gratifying. This was such an expert exercise in style. Go read Strunk and White's Elements of Style, how to write. Look, trads, my friends, parish orphans, retrogrades, whoever, anyone listening, I don't even care who you are. I don't know who you are exactly. We need to purge from Catholic traditionalism, the Puritanism. It's a canker that grows on the heart. We need to purge the anti-intellectualism from Catholic traditionalism. Being smarter is always better. It always leads us more to the Lord, right? We need to look at, anti-affirmative rhetoric from the trads. We need to embrace good rhetoric. It's the third and the highest aspect of the trivium, the way we should be educating our kids. This is good rhetoric. It's great rhetoric. They're filial, they're genuflecting. It's deferent. They have a scholarly mien while still having a filial mien approach to Pope Francis. And yet so many dunderheads missed it. It's just strange. It's really strange. This is an excellent, excellent exercise in Strunk and White's Elements of Style. I mean, this is an A paper. So again, I don't know if it's, which we always say about Pope Francis. Is he a genuine dunderhead and he just missed all of the hooks, honestly? Or is he pretending to miss them? I'll say to you, to my lay confrere, my ex-partner, Taylor Marshall, did you really just, if so, then that's fine. Did you really just honestly miss all of the masterful rhetorical flourishes, not cucked at all, in this communique by FSSP, expertly done? Or are you pretending to miss them? Because this is a great letter. This is just a great letter. I don't know what else you could have in here, unless you just wanted a Declaration of Independence from the Pope. Do you guys want a Declaration of Independence from the Pope? Because this has been done before. Did you know that? 1517, Martin Luther issued a Declaration of Independence from the Pope. And then, Decem Romanum Pontificem, the Pope declared his independence from Martin Luther. And guess who has the last laugh? Laugh while you can, parish orphans and retrogrades. Laugh while you can. Someone is right here. I'm not going to self-characterize. I'm not going to say who it is. I think you know. I think you know who I think it is, at least.
I'll tell you who I think it is.
Yeah, guys, you guys got to learn to read and write. Got to learn to read and write. I mean, not just technically to read a little, write a little. You got to see the subtext. This is excellent. That is excellent citation of Vatican II, Sacrosanctum Concilium, which is itself a good document. It's excellent citation of a bad document, Amoris Laetitia, because they're throwing it back in the Pope's face. Taylor Marshall missed this. He did not give a charitable read of this. He needs to apologize to FSSP. Love it or leave it, or don't go there. And he's probably not going to do that, but I admonish my brother, Taylor, my former partner, repent. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, and stop bringing people away from the light. Okay, it's enough. Enough is enough, my friend. It's not too late. It's not too late. Just do what you did. What you gave some grandiloquent apology to SSPX. Heaven help me if I've ever said anything about him. What? Just do that for FSSP. We don't even have to talk about SSPX. or don't, or just go to SSPX and say, look, this is me. This is who I'm for. This is my tribe, which is fine. This is my clan. But for the people that do go to FSSP or ICK, while you still can, because wicked Pope Francis does have the authority to do what he's doing, and it looks like he's moving on the theater of war. Then, you know, I do exhort you to, until Taylor makes an apology to FSSP, ICK, turn him off. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Once you eat it, it's gone. Or if you want to have it, you can't eat it. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's an old principle. I feel like today on Rules for Retrogrades, I've been unpacking some basics of Catholicism 101, and then with the cake analogy, I guess even birthday parties 101 from grammar school. It's just basic stuff. And again, I will repeat it for the 6th time. Anybody who can produce for me a document or an ex cathedra statement at the level of an ecumenical council or above, there's only one thing really above ex cathedra statements, that remove the gloss from Pastor Eternus. That's the Vatican I document. Pastor Eternus. I've been citing a lot today, so I forgot it. Paragraphs 2, 8, and 9 look really, really plenary in the powers corresponding with the field of legislation of the Pope in Pastor Eternus from Vatican I, paragraphs 2, 8, and 9. I've called out 5 times. None of you can answer. It's always a bunch of rhetoric. Oh, well, I think blah, blah, blah. I got stuff like that from Peter Kwasniewski. All I'm asking for is show me something. Show me a hand of cards that beats Pastor Eternus, paragraphs 2, 8, and 9, which assign plenary powers to the Pope, which I want. I want you to be right on this. I want you to be right. Show me another ecumenical council where it gives gloss, or better yet, an ex cathedra statement where it says that you know, the Pope doesn't really have plenary powers. The Pope isn't really the vicar of Christ on earth. He doesn't have universal jurisdiction over disciplines and liturgies. I showed you documents that are lower documents from both Vatican I and Trent that talk about this very issue, and Vatican II. So I hope to be wrong on this issue. No one's produced squat. Goose egg. Show me. I don't want opinions. I'm not giving my opinion. I'm just citing paragraphs 2, 8, and 9 of Pastor Eternus. God bless you all. Pray for Taylor Marshall. Pray that he does the right thing, takes back the attack on the so-called cave-in of FSSP. It totally imagined cave-in, by the way. There's nothing about this that represents a cave-in. They're acknowledging universal jurisdiction while beautifully harmonizing it with elements of self-defense. We were promised something. Please make good on your holy promises. God is faithful. He'll make good on his promises. Trads, take heart. God makes good on his promises. We're going through this abomination of desolation. For some reason in the church, just stay on the bark. Don't fall off the left side. None of you probably are tempted to, but some of you are tempted to fall off the bark on the right side. Don't listen to those who would push you off the right side. Don't listen to Taylor Marshall. Okay? Stay on the bark. Stay joyful. Deus Volt. God wants us here. The devil wants us in the sea. Stay faithful